am Anna, 42 years old, an accountant in Austin, Texas. On paper, my life looked steady. A small house, a decent job, and one bright reason to keep going: my daughter Mia. She used to be my pride, my laughter in human form. At 16, Mia was soft-spoken, shy, the kind of girl who blushed when her friends teased her about crushes. I used to watch her reading by the window, sunlight tangled in her hair, and think maybe I did something right after all. But something shifted the summer she entered high school. The innocence faded, replaced by eyeliner and short skirts, by words that stung like knives. "You don't understand anything, Mom. Everyone does this," she'd shout, eyes blazing, voice trembling with defiance. I would stand there, frozen, the air between us thick with something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or the sound of a bond beginning to tear. I told myself it was normal, just teenage rebellion, a storm that would pass. I wanted to be the kind of mother who allowed her child to explore, to make mistakes, to grow. After all, I was a single mother after the divorce. I didn't want to be the villain in her story. But day by day, our conversations turned into arguments, and our arguments became full-blown wars. Sharp words slammed doors and the haunting silence that followed. Some nights I'd sit on the couch, listening to the echo of her footsteps upstairs, wondering when my little girl had turned into a stranger. I didn't know it then, but those arguments were just the beginning, the first cracks before everything fell apart. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories. They're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. It started with whispers, neighbors mentioning how Mia was seen getting into cars with men far too old to be her friends. First, I dismissed them. Small towns have a way of twisting the truth until it strangles you. But then I saw it myself. A black car waiting outside, the driver wearing sunglasses even after sunset. Mia climbed in without a word, her phone clutched in her hand, her expression empty. I remember standing by the window, my palms sweating, a sense of dread coiling inside me. Those men didn't look like friends. They looked like danger. One afternoon, while searching Mia's room for a necklace I had misplaced, I found something that made my blood run cold. Behind her bedside lamp, tucked into a small plastic bag, was a pouch of white powder. I froze. The air in the room felt heavier, almost suffocating. I didn't need to be told what it was. I had seen enough of life, enough of mistakes, to know the truth immediately: drugs. My hands shook as I stared at it, the world around me blurring. For a long moment I couldn't breathe. How had my sweet, book-loving daughter fallen into this? That night I confronted her. She came home smelling of smoke and perfume that didn't belong to her. "What is this, Mia?" I demanded, holding up the bag. Her eyes went wide for a second, then cold. "Why are you in my room?" she hissed. I tried to stay calm, but the words burst out of me. "You're destroying yourself. You think these people care about you? They'll ruin your life. Stop pretending you care, Mom," she screamed, voice breaking. "You only want control." The argument escalated until the walls seemed to vibrate with our fury. She cried, I cried. Every sentence cut deeper. I reached for her, but she pushed me away so hard that the lamp fell and shattered. "Mia, please," I whispered, but she was already storming off, slamming the door so violently that the picture frames trembled. The next morning, her room was empty. 2 suitcases gone. The closet half bare. Her bed still unmade. Her perfume lingering like a ghost. I remember calling her name through the house, my voice trembling, knowing she wouldn't answer. I called the police, desperate. They took my statement, nodded, and told me calmly, "She's 16. Teenagers run away all the time. She'll come back." But I knew, I felt something was terribly wrong. I spent days driving through Austin, stopping at gas stations, parks, anywhere she might have gone. I called her friends, her teachers, even her father. No one had heard from her. At night, I sat in her room, clutching the photo of us at her middle school graduation. My tears dried into silence, leaving behind only guilt. For years passed. No calls, no letters, nothing but an ache that lived inside me like a second heartbeat. I tried to rebuild a life, but every time I saw a girl her age on the street, I turned my head half hoping, half dreading. Then one afternoon my phone buzzed. It was a message from my friend Lauren. "Anna, is this Mia?" She sent me a link. A local news clip about prostitutes and addicts in a rundown neighborhood of Los Angeles. I clicked it, not expecting anything, and then I saw her. The camera panned across a dark alley, and there she was, Mia. My daughter. Her face was gaunt, her eyes empty, her once glowing hair dull and tangled. She looked older than her years, like life had chewed her up and spit her out. I froze, the phone slipping from my hand. The girl who used to fear the dark was now living in it. I booked the first flight to Los Angeles that same night. My hands trembled as I packed. Every second felt like a lifetime. All I could think was one thing. I'm coming for you, Mia. No matter what it takes. Searching in Los Angeles. The plane touched down in Los Angeles beneath a sky the color of dirty steel. I rented a small gray sedan from the airport and drove south, the city unfolding like a wounded animal, glittering on the surface, rotten underneath. The air smelled of smog, oil, and burnt hope. I followed the address mentioned in the news report, South Central Los Angeles. The words themselves felt heavy, like a warning. I drove past crumbling buildings sprayed with graffiti, past tents pitched on sidewalks, past women with hollow faces leaning against streetlights. I slowed down at every corner, scanning, hoping, praying. At stoplights, I pressed flyers against my steering wheel. Mia's smiling face staring back at me, frozen in time. I made hundreds of copies and taped them to poles, fences, and storefronts. Each time I smoothed one down, I whispered, "Please, someone recognize her." Days blurred into nights. I slept in cheap motels with flickering neon signs, where the sheets smelled faintly of bleach and despair. Every morning I woke before dawn and hit the streets again. I asked anyone who would listen: gas station clerks, bus drivers, outreach workers, street vendors. Some shook their heads. Others looked away, as if the story was too familiar to bear. "You're looking for a girl out here," one man said, laughing bitterly. "Ma'am, there are hundreds of MIAs. They come and go. The streets eat them." But I couldn't give up. Every corner, every alley might hold a trace of her. One night, exhaustion pushed me to the edge. I was wandering through an alley behind a liquor store, the ground slick with spilled beer and trash. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked, sharp and hollow. Then I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer. A man stepped out of the shadows. His face was scarred from his jaw to his temple, his eyes glittering with menace. "You don't belong here," he growled, voice thick with something feral. "This ain't your kind of street." I tried to back away, clutching my purse. "I'm just looking for my daughter." He lunged forward, grabbing my bag. "You got money? You want to buy something?" I screamed, struggling, my heart pounding so violently I thought it would burst. The alley spun in darkness and fear, until a voice cut through it. "Leave her alone." A thin girl appeared from behind a dumpster, her clothes tattered, her face hidden beneath a hood. She shouted something sharp, fast, words I couldn't make out. The man spat, cursed, and disappeared into the darkness. The girl turned to me, her eyes surprisingly gentle. "You shouldn't be out here alone, lady," she said softly, handing me a small flashlight. "Take this. The city eats people like you." Her words pierced deeper than she knew. I clutched the flashlight, thanked her, and stood trembling long after she left. When I finally reached my car, my hands were shaking so hard I dropped the keys twice. That night, I sat behind the wheel and cried. Not loud, but the kind of crying that empties your soul. I wanted to go home, to crawl into my bed in Austin and pretend none of this was real. But then I looked at Mia's photo taped to my dashboard. Her eyes, bright, full of life, stared back at me, begging not to be forgotten. I couldn't stop now. Morning came with pale light cutting through the smog. I drove through the streets again, stopping at shelters, halfway houses, and churches. The workers there were kind but weary. "We'll keep an eye out," they promised, but their tone carried a quiet doubt. One afternoon, I parked near an abandoned gas station and sat there, staring out at the cracked pavement, feeling utterly defeated. My hands trembled around a coffee cup gone cold. I whispered into the air, "Please, Mia, just give me a sign." And then, as if the universe heard me, I saw her. She was walking on the opposite sidewalk, thin, her shoulders hunched, her hair tangled in the breeze. She wore a torn hoodie and jeans 2 sizes too big. For a second, I thought it was another illusion, another girl my mind had conjured. But then she turned slightly and I saw her face. Mia. I threw open the car door. Mia. My voice cracked, raw and desperate. She stopped. Slowly, she turned toward me. Recognition flickered in her eyes. Disbelief, fear, and something fragile like hope. And then she ran, not away but toward me. Mama! We collided in the middle of the street, clinging to each other as cars honked and people stared. I felt her ribs under my arms so sharp they could cut. She smelled of sweat, smoke, and sadness. I didn't care. I held her as if the world might end if I let go. Mom, I'm sorry, she sobbed into my shoulder. I didn't mean to. Shoo. It's okay, baby. It's okay. You're safe now, I whispered, though I didn't believe it. I took her to a small diner nearby, one of those places that still smelled like old grease and coffee grounds. We sat in a corner booth and I ordered pancakes, eggs, anything she might eat. She barely touched the food. Her hands shook as she lifted her fork. Her eyes, once bright and full of curiosity, were now dull, clouded, as if something had taken her from the inside out. Mia, I said softly, come home with me. Please. We can fix this. We'll start over. She looked up, tears brimming. I can't, Mom. Why not? We can get help. I'll find a rehab center, a safe place. Her head shook violently. You don't understand. They'll find me. They'll hurt you. Who, Mia? I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Her eyes darted toward the window. They watch everything. I shouldn't have come to you. Mia, no one's going to hurt me. Just tell me who. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. I love you, Mom, she whispered, voice trembling. But I can't go back. I'm already too far gone. Before I could react, she kissed my forehead, the same way I used to do when she was little, and bolted out the door. Mia! I ran after her into the street, but she was fast, weaving through traffic like a shadow. Horns blared. Someone yelled. And then she was gone, swallowed by the city. I stood there in the middle of the road, shaking, tears streaming down my face. People stared, but no one came to help. The city around me buzzed and moved, indifferent to the heartbreak happening on its pavement. That night, I went back to my motel and sat on the bed, staring at the empty space beside me. Her smell still lingered on my jacket, faint, fading. I replayed the diner scene over and over in my mind. Her trembling hands, her haunted eyes, her final hug. I had found her, and lost her again. The guilt was unbearable. Maybe if I had been stricter when she was younger. Maybe if I had listened more. Maybe if I hadn't let her walk out that night 4 years ago. The word maybe became a ghost that followed me everywhere. Outside my window, the city hummed. Sirens in the distance, muffled laughter, a car backfiring. Somewhere out there, my daughter was wandering those streets, afraid, broken, and alone. And I couldn't reach her. I pressed the flashlight the homeless girl had given me earlier into my palm and turned it on. Its small beam of light cut through the darkness of the motel room, a fragile symbol of hope in a city that seemed to devour it. Hold on, Mia, I whispered to the empty room. I'm not leaving without you. But deep down, a part of me already knew. Los Angeles wasn't a place where miracles came easily. It was a place that swallowed dreams whole and left mothers like me searching through shadows, praying for redemption that never came. Still, I couldn't stop. I couldn't give up on her, not yet, because she was my daughter. And even if the world called her lost, I would search until my last breath to bring her home. Pain and fragile hope. After losing Mia for the second time, I wandered through Los Angeles like a shadow, sleepless, weightless, and half alive. This city never slept, yet for me night and day had blurred into the same gray haze. I rented a small room in a rundown motel near Figueroa Street, where the neon signs flickered against cracked windows, and the air smelled of smoke, cheap liquor, and despair. Each morning, I left with a stack of missing person flyers, Mia's smiling face frozen in time at 15, and each night, I returned with blistered feet and a heart that felt heavier than my bones. One day I met Sarah, a woman around 50, thin and hollow-eyed, standing in front of a community center. She held a poster of her son, Ethan, 19, missing. Please call if you see him. When our eyes met, we didn't need words. There was something in the way mothers recognize each other's grief, raw, stripped of pride, held together by sheer survival. We became companions in loss. By day we roamed the streets, taping flyers to lampposts and store windows, visiting shelters, hospitals, and halfway homes. By night we shared instant coffee and stories of the children we used to have, the laughter, the promise, the love. Sarah told me about Ethan, a sweet boy who loved to paint, until addiction dragged him into a world neither of them understood. I thought if I loved him hard enough he'd come back, she said, her voice trembling. I nodded. I knew that feeling too well. That foolish, beautiful hope that a mother's love could outfight darkness. One evening, while we were taping flyers under an overpass, a homeless man pointed at Mia's photo. I've seen her, he said quietly, but she was with the wrong crowd. You shouldn't be here, lady. His warning cut through me like ice. I pressed a $10 bill into his hand, whispered thanks, and ran down the alley he mentioned, only to find silence and shadows swallowing the street whole. Weeks became months. Sarah got the call every mother dreads. I still remember the rain that day, cold, relentless, echoing off the motel roof. Sarah stood in my doorway, phone in hand, her face pale as ash. They found Ethan, she whispered, in a drainage tunnel. He's gone. She fell to her knees, and I caught her before she hit the ground. I didn't speak. There were no words that could comfort that kind of pain. That night, as she packed her few belongings, she turned to me with red-rimmed eyes and said, "Don't stop, Anna. No matter what happens, don't stop." I'd trade everything just to hold my son one more time. When she left, the silence she left behind felt unbearable. I lay awake for hours staring at the cracked ceiling, afraid that one day my phone would ring too, and I'd be the one kneeling beside a body bag. But I kept going. I had to. Every morning I told myself, one more day, one more try. Then 6 months later it happened. A call came from an unknown number. "Is this Anna?" a man's voice asked. "My name's David. I work at St. Mary's shelter. There's a young woman here asking for you." My heart stopped. "What's her name?" I whispered. She said, "Her name is Mia." The phone slipped from my hand. I picked it up again with shaking fingers. "Where are you? Please tell me the address." I barely remember the drive, only the sound of my heartbeat thundering in my ears. The sky was clear that morning, but everything around me looked blurred, unreal. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. When I arrived at St. Mary's, the smell of disinfectant and cheap soup filled the air. David, a kind-faced man in his 40s, led me down a narrow hallway. "She's weak but safe," he said softly. "She wouldn't talk to anyone. Just kept asking for her mother." When he opened the door I froze. There she was, Mia, sitting on a metal chair, wrapped in an oversized blue jacket, hair tangled, her face so thin it almost broke me to look at her. But her eyes, God, her eyes, they were still hers. "Mama," she whispered, voice trembling. I ran to her, and she fell into my arms. We both cried deep, shaking sobs that carried years of pain, guilt, and longing. "I'm so sorry," I murmured, holding her face in my hands. "I should have found you sooner." She shook her head, tears streaming down. "No, Mom. It's my fault. I thought I could handle it. I thought I was strong." I brushed her hair back, kissed her forehead. "It doesn't matter now. You're here. We can go home. We can start again." But Mia pulled away, fear flickering in her eyes. "I can't, Mom. They'll find me. They'll hurt you." My chest tightened. "Who?" She hesitated, eyes darting to the window. "The people I stayed with. I owe them money. They won't let me go." David stepped closer, speaking quietly. "We can contact the police. But she's terrified. We need to move carefully." I nodded, though my hands were trembling. I turned back to Mia. "Stay here, sweetheart. You're safe in this place. I'll figure something out." She gave a small nod, eyes glassy, distant. I could tell, part of her still didn't believe safety was real. I stayed with her for hours, telling stories about home. The garden she used to water, the cat that still slept on her old bed, the smell of pancakes on Sunday mornings. For a moment I saw her lips curl into the faintest smile, like a flicker of light in a storm. As I stood to leave, she whispered, "Mom, I miss home." Those 3 words shattered and healed me all at once. I hugged her again, breathing in the faint scent of her hair, memorizing every second. I'll be back tomorrow. I promise. When I stepped outside, the wind bit at my face, but for the first time in years, I felt warmth inside me, a fragile, flickering ember of hope. That night I sat in my car, parked across from the shelter, staring at the photo of Mia I kept in my wallet. The city buzzed with sirens and laughter somewhere far away. I whispered into the dark, voice breaking, "We'll go home, Mia. No matter how far I have to go, no matter who I have to fight, I'll bring you back." For the first time in 4 years I believed those words. Because even in a city that devoured souls, a mother's love, broken, bleeding, stubborn, could still light the way home. The heartbreaking end. There are moments in life when time stops, when the air feels too heavy to breathe, when the world seems to collapse inward. For me, that moment came the night Mia's fever spiked. She was trembling in my arms, sweat pouring down her pale face. Her eyes fluttered open and closed as she whispered, "Mom, I'm cold." I held her tighter, pressing my lips to her forehead, begging whatever God was listening to save her. I called every rehab center, every shelter, every number I could find. But every voice on the other end sounded the same. Tired, bureaucratic, detached. "We're sorry, ma'am. We can't take her. There's a warrant on her record. Or worse, she doesn't meet our admission criteria." I wanted to scream at them all. She's just a child. But to them, she was just another statistic in the endless cycle of addiction and loss. When her fever broke at dawn, I thought maybe, just maybe, she was turning a corner. She slept in my lap like she used to when she was little, her hand curled around my wrist. I stayed awake, afraid that if I blinked, she might disappear again. But 2 days later, when I came back from buying food, she was gone. The blanket lay crumpled on the floor. Her jacket was missing. On the nightstand, she'd left only a single note. "I'm sorry, Mom." I searched the streets for days, through alleys, under bridges, near the same motels she'd once been found. I stopped strangers, showed her photo, begged for news. No one knew anything. The city felt larger than ever, swallowing every trace of her. Then one morning my phone rang. "Mrs. Walker?" The voice on the other end said, deep, hesitant, "This is Officer Green from LAPD." My breath caught. "Did you find her?" There was a long pause, the kind that tells you the truth before words ever arrive. "I'm afraid so, ma'am. We found a young woman matching your daughter's description in an abandoned building downtown." "I'm very sorry." The words blurred. My knees gave out. I remember the sound of the phone hitting the floor, my own voice breaking into sobs I didn't know I could still produce. At the hospital, they led me to a cold, sterile room. The light above the metal table flickered faintly, and there she was, my Mia. My baby. Her face was peaceful, almost as if she were just asleep, but her lips were pale, her fingers still smudged with the stains of a world too cruel for her to survive. I fell to my knees beside her, clutching her hand, whispering, "I'm here, sweetheart. I found you. I'm so sorry I wasn't fast enough." They told me the cause: overdose. Shock from a bad batch of heroin. I didn't need the details. I just needed one more day. One more chance to tell her that no mistake could ever make me stop loving her. When I returned to Texas, everything felt hollow. The house was too quiet. Her room still smelled faintly of her shampoo. On her desk sat the framed photo of us at the lake, the summer before everything changed. I touched the glass and whispered, "We'll always have that day, won't we?" At her funeral, the church was filled with faces I barely recognized. Classmates, neighbors, old colleagues who hadn't seen me since the divorce. I stood before them, hands trembling, and read the words I had written the night before. Mia wasn't her mistakes. She was light, even when that light flickered. She loved deeply, laughed loudly, and dreamed of being a singer. Life took her down a road she didn't deserve, but she was more than the path she walked. She was my daughter, my reason, my heart. My voice broke, but I forced myself to finish. I will love her. Not for what she was supposed to be, but for who she truly was. After everyone left, I sat alone by her grave until the sky turned gray. That's when I remembered the box I'd found while cleaning her room. Inside were small keepsakes, an old music CD, a few childhood drawings, and a folded piece of paper. It was a letter, her handwriting shaky but familiar. "Mom, I'm sorry I ran away. I thought I could handle it. I didn't want you to see me like that. But I never stopped loving you. You were the only person who ever saw me, even when I didn't want to be seen. Please forgive me, Mia. I pressed the letter to my chest and cried until I couldn't anymore. In that moment I realized grief doesn't end. It simply becomes part of you, reshaping your soul into something softer, sadder, and in a strange way, stronger. I still talk to her sometimes when I drive to work, when I water the plants, when the sky turns pink in the evenings. And sometimes I swear I hear her laughter carried in the wind. Maybe that's how love survives, not by erasing pain, but by learning to carry it with grace. 5 lessons I learned from losing Mia. Love without control is the hardest kind of love. I used to believe being a good mother meant protecting my child from every wrong turn. But sometimes love means letting go, even when every cell in your body wants to hold on. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved, but you can show them they're worth saving. Addiction, shame, fear, they build walls too high for anyone else to climb. The best you can do is leave the light on so they know where home is. Pain changes you, but it doesn't have to destroy you. For a long time I thought my life ended with Mia's. But pain, when faced with courage, becomes a strange kind of wisdom. It teaches you empathy, for yourself and for others walking through darkness. Every goodbye teaches you something about love. When Mia died, I learned that love doesn't vanish when someone is gone. It transforms from something you give into something you carry. It lives in the way you speak their name, in the way you remember them when no one else does. Forgiveness is not a gift to the past, it's a gift to the future. I forgave Mia for running away. But more importantly, I forgave myself for not being able to save her. Only then did I begin to live again. Today, when I visit her grave, I bring sunflowers, her favorite. I tell her about my days, about the other mothers I've met who are still searching for their lost children. Sometimes I think she's proud of me, because that's what I do now. I help other mothers who've lost their way. I tell them that their pain matters, that their love still has purpose. Mia's story became my mission. A reminder that even the deepest heartbreak can bloom into hope for someone else. If you're a parent listening to this, hold your children a little tighter tonight. Listen to them, really listen, even when you don't understand. And if you've ever lost someone, know this: love doesn't die. It just changes form. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every story we tell is a candle in the dark, and your support keeps the light alive for others who need it. Because somewhere out there, another mother is still searching, and she needs to know she's not alone.